How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Nun Tes, although that's a little bit misleading because we have a lot of Nun Tes to do of Masechta BavaKama. Friends, yo friends. We got a lot of work to do on Daf Nun Tes. Alright, well, I don't think it's so I don't think it's so difficult. But yesterday I was so tired when I was reviewing it, so who knows, maybe I just didn't think it was difficult, maybe it was, maybe I was just so tired, I didn't even know what's flying, so, oh my gosh, and today is such a random day, man, I'm telling you, my head's all over the place right now. Wow, I'm like recording this in the middle of the day, I don't know, and I mean, that's not so crazy, what time is it even? What time? 11:30 in the morning. I don't usually record at 11:30 in the morning, it's a weird day. Anyways, okay, Nun Chesim Beis. Okay, so we're starting off Nun Chesim Beis, like, I don't know, 10-15 lines into the page. I guess probably where we stopped yesterday. Heichi Shaminon, you got it? Heichi Shaminon. So how do we evaluate, right, we had said that, if it's Mashe Hizik, right, it's like, for example, if a sheep just kind of walks into a field, not be'onis, and just kind of walks in and eats it, so then, Babel yawn, that's strange. How did I do a Babel yawn? Oh, Babel stretch. What is going on here? Oy, vavoy. Wow. I don't know. Okay. Wow, I feel like that was pretty random. So we said that if it kind of saunters in there and starts, eating, so then you pay Masha Hizik, that which the animal damaged. The shaila is, how do we evaluate that which is damaged? So we say, right, aruga. What do we say? We said, all right, we compare. So we don't basically just say, well, you ate this amount, you pay this amount. No, you look at this amount, within the context of a larger amount. Like a wholesale amount, right? So you say, if it was one furrow, we'll look at the furrow, not just how much does this furrow cost, retail, but kind of how much, if you would look at if you would buy a whole chunk of land, a besa of land, and then evaluate how much that costs, and then figure out based on that cost how much each furrow would cost, it would come out to cheaper. So that is essentially how we evaluate the damage. So says the Gemara, Heichi Shaminon. So how do we evaluate this? So when the Mishnah talks about a Beisa, which I believe I just read that it did. So yeah. So when we evaluate a Beisa, actually we're not evaluating just one Beisa. Babylon, sorry. Actually, it's one Beisa within the context of 60 Beisas. So how much would, if you would buy 60 Beisas at one go, and then divide that essentially, I guess, in 60, that would be the amount of a Beisa within that context, and then one row within that Beisa, how much does that cost? Right? Fine. Rabbi Yana Yomis is Rabbi Yana Tarkov B'Shishim Tarkov 30 sa'as, essentially. Okay. Chizkiya Amar Kelach B'Shishim Kalachim. Chizkiya says that you just evaluate it within 60 times of what it ate, right? So forget about the base saw thing. If you ate 1 carrot, if it ate 1 carrot, then how much would 1 carrot be if you bought 60 carrots at a time? If the animal ate 1 cob, 2 cobs, we don't say to Shalom D'mein that we'll just pay the value of exactly what it ate. Nisht. We have a look as if it was a small furrow, a small row, and then evaluate that row. Well, that implies that evaluate that row on its own. So that's unlike any of those other examples that we gave, 60 besas, 30 besas, 60 times the amount, all of a sudden we're saying it just face value. Essentially, it sounds like lo b'shishim. No, within 60, and then each person would have his explanation, of 60 sas, 30 sas, that whole thing. Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, in Shaman Kav mipnei shemashpicho. We don't evaluate a kav because we make it better. This is not supposed to make sense yet. V'lo base kor mipnei shepogmo, and not a base kor because it makes it worse. My kamar, what does this mean? Amr Papa says, Papa Hachi Kamar, this is what it means. Ein Shaman Kav b'shishim kabim mipnei shemashbiach mazik. We don't evaluate one kav relative to 60 kavs, because then the damager will get a better deal. Because 60 kavs apparently is too much for a poor person, but too little for a sort of average income person. And therefore it's just like not a price, a value that is known so good, and it'll end up being cheaper, and the damager is going to benefit from that, since he's going to pay less to the damaged party. But at the same time, not one core in 60 cores, because that's a very large amount of property, and the only person who would be able to afford such a large amount of property is a very wealthy person who is looking for a very large property and is even willing to pay top dollar, if he could find what he's looking for. And therefore, if that's the case, so then the damager will end up overpaying, because in that scenario it's going to be more expensive. So because the damager is going to be overpaying. Okay, Maskif Rafuna bar Manoach. Rafuna bar Manoach asks, "Hi velo base core velo core mi boile." So Rafuna bar Manoach asks, in the ratio we said ein shaman kav mipnei shemashbicho velo base core mipnei shapogmo. Shouldn't it be ein shaman kav mipnei shemashbicho velo core mipnei shapogmo? Right? I mean, if we're saying that basically not a kav relative to 60 kavs, not a core relative to 60 cores, then it should both, it's just like the first part was a kav, so the second part should be a core, not a base core. This is Rafuna bar Manoach, this is what it means. In Shomen kav bifnei atzmo, we don't evaluate a kav alone on its own, mipnei shemashbiach nizak, because then the damaged party is going to benefit, because it's going to be retail, it's going to be more expensive. V'lo kav b'base core, and not a kav relative to a base core, which is a very large quantity, mipnei shepogem nizak, because then the nizak is going to lose out, because that's going to be, relative to a large amount, it's going to be a little bit. El b'shishim, rather, with 60 times the amount, which sounds at face value like it's like it's like Chizkiah, who says kelach b'shishim kalochim. Okay, fine. Fans, how you doing with this stuff? It is kind of is what it is, right? Let's go weiter. However, the kashba mechabe, there was a fellow, his name was George Washington, and he cut down a cherry tree. However, the kashba mechabe, a fellow knocked down his friend's cherry tree, and then he became the first president of the United States of America. How many? He served 2 terms, right? 2 4-year terms, right? But that was kind of where the minig came, was for 2 terms, right? Okay, right. I think, unless it was like, was he the Yotzim in a Klal? Was he 3 terms? No, he set the precedent of 2 terms, right? Somebody was telling me this yesterday, American history. I don't know. So I said he must have gone to better school than I did, but he said he only learned this stuff later on. It was December 24th. He said something about George Washington, I think in Delaware or something. Chevy, you know about this? December 24th, George Washington in Delaware or something? I don't know. Akaponim, let's start over. There was a certain fellow who cut down his friend's, it wasn't his cherry tree, it was his palm tree. Okay, a certain fellow chopped down his friend's palm tree. Also the commentary Rish Galusa. Now the chopper downer comes before the Rish Galusa, Amarle, and the Rish Galusa says, look, chopper downer, Lididi Chazili, I saw this cherry tree. There were 3. I said cherry tree, I think, but there were 3 palm trees over there. Avu Kaime, Avu Shavu Meya Zuze, and together in total these 3 palm trees were 100 zuz. So Zil Havle, give him 1/3 of that. Tlasim vitlasa vitilsa. So what you owe is going to be 33 1/3. 100 divided by 3 is 33 1/3. So that is what you owe. Basically, you owe face value. Omar, and chopper downer guy says, chopper downer boy, I think I prefer boy to guy. I think I've said that before. Chopper downer boy says, but maybe not. Maybe we should just call him Chopper Downer here. Mr. Chopper Downer. Mr. Chopper Downer. Maybe that's better in this case. Mr. Chopper Downer says, so Omri says, why do I need to waste my time with a Reish Gelusa who judges Persian judgments? I want a Jewish judgment. Also, the commentary of Nachman comes before of Nachman, who parenthetically I believe was the son-in-law of the Reish Gelusa. Omri B'Shishim, and Rav Nachman says, oh yeah, you have to. We evaluate the palm tree relative to 60 palm trees, and therefore it comes out to less. It won't be 33 and a third. Omar le Rava, but now Rava says to Rav Nachman, wait a minute. When we had said that it's relative to 60, when we had said this whole 60 thing, that was the animal, right? The sheep went and ate stuff. So we said that when we say Mishalim, what was it? Mishalim Mashezika, I believe that's the Lashon. When we said Mishalim Mashezika, we said by the sheep that it will be, the shishim thing. But if a fellow himself goes and chops down a palm tree, would we necessarily apply the shishim thing? Right. So again, so Amalei Rava says to Rav Nachman, Amru beniske mamono. Sure, they said that when his sheep causes damage like this, it's the 60 thing. Yomu beniske gufa. Do we say the same thing when it comes to when he himself damages stuff? Amalei Abai le Rava. But now Abai challenges Rava. Beniske gufo, my daitich. When it comes to niske gufo. Right. So my daitich, Rava, I don't understand. So what are you saying when it comes to when he himself does it that we should be more stringent? Titania, is it because we learn in a brisa hamavkir kaimer shel chavero, a fellow who destroys his friend's vineyard, smutter, and the vineyard at that point is in the stage of smutter. Smutter is a very early stage of the growth. It's like, I believe when like the grapes like first start to bud, they're like, I don't know, maybe like green dots or something. So if you destroy the property at that point, that basically evaluate the before and after of the field, and you pay the difference, i.e. you pay for what you damaged. It doesn't say anything about 60. So it sounds like if a fellow destroys his fellow's field, a fellow destroys his fellow's field, so you pay face value. We don't see anything about the 60. So Abaye is asking Rava, is that why you think that in this case this fellow should pay 33 and a third? But otu gabe behema nami milotanya. But 1 second, don't we have a similar thing? Don't we have a similarly worded brisa in the context of animals? And we know, of course, animals do have this shishim thing. Ki hagavna, right? Milotana ki hagavna detani that we learn in the brisa. Kotma nitiya, if an animal destroys some kind of planted thingy. Rabbi Yossi Omer goes to Gezeirus Yerushalayim Amru. Oh, the people who make the Gezeirus Yerushalayim, they say, Nitiya b'ashnosa shtei kesef. If it's in year 1, it's 2 silver coins. B'ashtei shonim arba kesef. And if it's 2 years old, then 4 silver coins. Och lechazes, if it ate sprouts of sorts. Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Omer says Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Nidon b'meshuyur shabo. That's an interesting opinion. Rabbi Yossi says, so let's say the animal goes and it eats like some sprouts in a field. So how do we evaluate the value of the sprouts that were eaten? Well, if assuming that it only ate some of the sprouts, I'm understanding correctly. Well, assuming that it ate some of the sprouts, wait until the rest of the sprouts grow and see what their what their eventual value of the ones that survived are, and then apply that to the ones that were eaten and say, look, you caused me to lose out, right? The value of what you ate are ultimately, of what your animal ate, are ultimately worth X, as is evidenced by the fact that it's what all the rest of the ones surrounding it were worth, and that is what you pay. The Chacham say that no, you compare it. How much was it before it was damaged, and how much is it now? So you just pay for directly for the damage that was done, I guess, at that time. Okay, nothing about shishim. If the animal ate these young grapes when they're at the early stages of their growth, Rabbi Yoshua says, Rabbi Yoshua osen ki'ilu henanovim omdis li botzer. We treat them as if they are ripe to be picked, and you pay that value. We compare what the value was before and what the value is now, i.e., you pay face value. Again, no mention of shishim. Reb Shimon ben Yehuda says, Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, Reb Shimon ben Shimon, when do we say that you pay face value? That's only if you ate the actual if it ate I think the actual vines, but it wasn't up to any growth yet. Pagim o boser, but if it ate half ripe dates or half ripe grapes, roen osan ki'ilu anovim omdis libotzer, then we view it as though they are grapes that are ready to be harvested. Fine. Katanimiyas v'chacham omrim roen osan kama isoyafa v'chama hiyafa v'lo katanish b'shishim. Okay, all that is to say that Abai is making the argument that we have this brisa which talks about an animal eating stuff, and it says Chacham, so you pay face value. It doesn't say anything about shishim, and yet we know but of course we know that an animal, the face, you don't just pay retail value, the face value, you pay it relative to 60 parts, and therefore if in the context of an animal, it doesn't mention shishim, but of course shishim applies. So hachinami b'shishim. So here oichit, when it comes to the fellow causing damage, it would also be b'shishim. So we had this chopper downer, Mr. Chopper Downer, who cut down his friend's palm tree. They came before. Who did they come before? Reish Galusa, he said pay face value. Rav Nachman said you pay b'shishim. Rava pushed back and says that no, taka should be face value if he himself did it. Abai says, why are you saying that? Because of this brisa? Well, we have another because of this brisa that by the person who says face value, but we also have brisa by an animal that says face value, which we know is dafka shishim. So I would argue, says Abai, that by a person it's also shishim, like Rav Nachman said. Omer Abai. Says Abaye, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, Rabbi Shmuel, Amud Davar Echad. Oh, so says Abaye that Rabbi Yossi Aglili and Rabbi Shmuel said the Zalbazach said the same thing. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Adamar, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, that which we said, which is that when you have the chazes, when you have these sprouts and they get eaten by the animal, so we wait and we see how much will the surrounding ones be worth, and then we apply that to the ones that were eaten. And also Bishmuel, the Tana that we learned in the Brisa, we've seen this already twice, I think, Meitav Sadeu, Meitav Karmi Yishalim, that if an animal eats from somebody else's field, so then the owner of the animal needs to pay Meitav Sadeu, Meitav Karma, the best of his field, the best of his vineyard. Meitav Sadeu shall nizak, Meitav Karma shall nizak. Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel says that is talking about the edis, the best fields of the nizak, right? That Reuven's Shimon or Reuven. Shimon's cow eats Reuven's field. Reuven's cow eats Shimon's field. Shimon's cow eats Reuven's field. Reuven's cow eats Shimon's field. Reuven's cow eats from Shimon's field. So we say that we evaluate from the best of Shimon's fields. Rabbi Akiva Omer says Rabbi Akiva Loba Akosov El Legabus Lenizokim and Edis v'Kavachom Elektish, which we assume to mean that he's arguing on Rabbi Shmuel and saying that no, it's from the best of Reuven, the damager's field. Vilotema Kravidi Baravan, and do not say Kravidi Baravan. Dam Ravidi Baravan says Ravidi Baravan Kigon Sha'achla Aruge Bein Ha'arugis. Don't say like Ravidi Baravan, who says that we're talking about a scenario where Reuven's ox ate from Shimon's field, and we don't know from the best stuff, from the worst stuff, we pasha don't know. If it ate the worst stuff or the best stuff, the aminon kum shlim shmena b'meitav, go and pay, right? Okay, go and treat it as if the animal ate the best stuff. Tika hashto, from the best of it there is now. We don't say this. My time, how come we don't say this? Because because if Shimon wants to extract payment from Reuven from Shimon's own best stuff, right, from the value of Shimon's best stuff, so he's going to have to prove to Reuven that Reuven's ox ate from his best stuff. But so long as he can't prove that, he won't be able to make that claim. And therefore, it cannot be like Ravidi Baravin, who says that we're talking about where it's a suffix. Rather, Ella, b'meitav dilakame umaniu ki'aich disalik. Rather, we wait and we see what the stuff around it ends up becoming like, and we pay that value. Okay, fine. That sounds very nice. Amar, we said earlier. So that's like Rabbi Yosef Glili, who says that also you wait and see. Amar, we said earlier. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda Omer, Rishum Rabbi Shimon. When do we say that we pay face value? That if it ate the actual vines or the actual, I don't know, I guess fig branches, I guess. Hasmutter, but if it's implying that, but if it's smutter, roin osan ki'ilu anovim omdis libotzer, then we would treat it as though they are completely ripe and ready to be harvested. Ema seifa, but then if we continue, we say ochla pagim o boser, that if the animal ate, so pagim are what? Pagim are half-ripe dates or half-ripe figs? I don't know. Betena, fig. Okay, half-ripe figs or half-ripe grapes. Who dero and also kilo anov omdus libatzer. That osmater. That is when we evaluate it as if they are ready to be harvested. Only once they reach the halfway mark of their growth. Smutter, but if it's smutter, if it's just at the beginning of the growth, more than just the vine, but less than smutter, but less than boser. So roin osan kami yafa v'chama oisa yafa. Then we would evaluate it at face value. So what's the deal with smutter? Do we treat it as though they're fully ripe, or do we treat it at face value? Ravina says, Kroch Vitani, you have to tie it all together and read in the following way. When do we say face value? When it is eaten, when they are basically just like the vine. Avol, ochla smutter. But if the animal ate smutter, right, when it's like slightly beginning to develop, pagan oboser, or if the animal ate half-ripe figs or grapes, roin osan, then we treat them kilu anavim omdis libater, as though they were fully ripe grapes, and they are and you pay that value. So if that's the case, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Rabbi Yeshua, but then if Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda is saying that smutter you pay as though they're fully ripe grapes, that's the same thing as Rabbi Yeshua, who said on the top line of the Amud that we treat smutter as if they are fully ripe grapes. There's a nafkamina kachash gofna velo mesaime. The nafkamina is, do you decrease? Do we take away from the value from the value of these fully ripe grapes the fact that as a grape, I guess, develops and goes from just being a baby grape to a fully ripe grape, it, I guess, has some impact on the vine. I guess it weakens the vine somehow. So therefore the vine kind of, I guess, decreases in value or something. So do we kind of have to so the fact, I guess, that it was damaged earlier on and prevented, in a sense, the weakening of the vine, which would have inevitably happened as the grape developed and weakened the vine. So he saved that value. So do you subtract it from the damages, the fact that he also saved money in a certain sense, or not. And it says v'lo mesaymeh, we're not sure who would say to detract it, subtract it. Is it Rabbi Yeshua or Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda? Abaye Omer mesaymeh u'mesaymeh. Abaye says, I can tell you exactly what it is. Man tana dechayish lekachash gofna. Who's the one who takes into account the weakening of the vine? Reb Shimon ben Yehuda. It's Reb Shimon ben Yehuda the Tanya. We learn a brayso of Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Omer. Reb Shimon ben Menashe. Ones einu mishalim es atzar. That a fellow who's he's ma'anes a fellow. So he doesn't. So if she's a besula, he doesn't actually need to pay her for tsar, since eventually mipnei sofa litztar tachas baila, because technically even if he didn't do that when she got married, there would be still that tsar. So therefore, it takes the sort of eventual status into consideration. Amrlo, to which they said to him, Eino dome nivelas berasun nivelas beonis. They say, well, it's very different when you're having bia with your husband than when you're having bia with your me'anis, and therefore he should pay tsar. Amr Abai says, Abai Hani Tanoi Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Amud Over Echad. So let's say that the following Tanoim and Reb Yehud and Reb Shimon ben Yehuda said the same thing. Okay, Reb Shimon ben Yehuda Hadamar and Reb Shimon ben Yehuda, that which we said, that we take eventual scenarios into account. Hani Tanoi Mahi, and who are these other Tanoim that we're talking about? The Tanoim that we learned in Brayso of Yossi Omer Nechi Chaya ben Azeh Omer Nechi Mizonis. Okay, that when it comes to Vlodis, that right, we have this scenario: somebody tries to hit his friend, he ends up hitting this fella, and she miscarries, and you have to pay the Vlodis. So similar to like what we're saying with the grapevine, that as they develop, the vine's going to get weaker. So technically speaking, he's saving that money by being destroyed earlier. So you could say also by the Vlodis. So well, the husband, technically speaking, saves money on he doesn't have to pay for a midwife, right? If she saw the pregnancy through full term and gave birth, well, then there would be midwife bills. So technically, the fellow who caused the damage actually, in a certain sense, did save the husband some money on a midwife. You can also say that as the pregnancy developed, she would require more food, and that would cost the husband more money, or I guess that value mizonos would go to, I don't know, her. Who would that money go to? She would I guess to him as well. So right, she would you would have to pay for her food as she developed the pregnancy, and that's not going to be the case anymore since she miscarried. So we could take this into account and subtract that from the amount of the vlodis, because he's ultimately, in a sense, saving money now at the same time. So again, the Tanya is one of the Rabbi Yossi, Omer says Rabbi Yossi Nechi Chaya, that we can subtract from the vlodis the fact that the husband saves money on the midwife bills. Ben Azai Omer Nechi Mezonis. Ben Azai says that he saves money on the grocery bills. Manda Omer Nechi Chaya Kol Shekein Nechi Mezonis. So the one who says that you can subtract the midwife bills, certainly you can subtract the grocery bills. Umanda Omar Nechi Mezonis, but the one who says that you can subtract the grocery bills, Avan Nechi Chaya Lo, but you cannot subtract the midwife bills, because to Omar Le, because the husband will claim so that he can get more money out of the hitter, the damager. It's the Didi Pikicha Hi V'lo Mibaya Chaya. Look, my wife does not need a midwife, and therefore I actually was not planning to spend money on a midwife, and therefore do not subtract that amount. Rav Papa, Rav Huna Beit Rav Yeshua, Avur Uvda Kavosid Rav Nachman B'Shishim. Okay, Rav Papa and Rav Huna Beit Rav Yeshua, they once passed with Rav Nachman that it's B'Shishim. Okay, that if a fellow damages, you do take into account the 60 thing. Lishnachrina, we have another lashon. Rav Papa, Rav Huna Beit Rav Yeshua, Shamu Dikla Agav Katina, the Ira, they evaluated a palm tree relative to some small parcel of land, I guess, which was Shishim. Vilchsa Kavasi Rav Papa V'Funu Beit Rav Yeshua, Bedikla the Ar Ma'a, Vilchsa kavasi Reish Lakish bedikla parsa. The halacha is like Rav Papa Nufuna Pei Vishu, and I guess also like Rav Nachman when it comes to an Aramean palm tree, which is that the shishim thing, but the halacha is like the Reish Galusa that you pay face value without the shishim thing. If it's a Persian palm tree, which I guess is a very, very geschmacke palm tree. Eliezer Zeira Havasai Misane Uchme. Eliezer Zeira was wearing black shoes. Vikoi Beshuka Dinardo, and he was walking around spaziering in the Nardain Shuk. I wonder what they had in the Nardain Shuk. What do you think they had in the Nardain Shuk? What do you think they had in the Nardain Shuk? Probably dates. It's Nardo. They probably had dates. What else do you think they had? Probably had a butcher. Probably goats. What else? Nuts? Did they eat sunflower seeds yet? Oh, I hope not. What else did they have in the Shuk of Nardo? Do you think they were like camels? You can get like a camel in the Shuk of Nardo? Maybe. Camel? What else can you get over there? What else can you get in the Shuk of Nardo? You think you could buy like a whole cow, or you think they're just parts of cows? Maybe they have like snacks. Maybe they have like old like Iraqi snacks. They're probably like very sugary. Probably very sugary. Maybe like dried fruits and things. Maybe you can get that. Yeah, I wonder. Are they probably also, you think they had like garments and fabrics and things? Maybe like incense, spices? Probably spices, right? Yeah, of course, why not? Alright. Anyways, so Ashkechu Devei Reish Galusa, so the people of the Reish Galusa found Eliezer Zeira. And they said to him, why are you walking around with these black shoes? We said to him, I am mourning for Jerusalem. Mourning for Jerusalem. You see, a Yid in the Shuk in Iraq, he just wants to return to Eretz Yisrael. The Yidden, they want to return to Eretz Yisrael. The Yidden have always wanted to return to Eretz Yisrael. Even Eliezer Zeira in the Shuk of Nardo, his heart was in Eretz Yisrael. He was mourning for Eretz Yisrael. Amrulei at chashivas la'asabulei ayushalayim. What are you so chashuv that you're mourning for Jerusalem? So you are Hava. They thought that he was being haughty. Asua v'chavshua. So they arrested him for the offense of being haughty. Amrulu, he said to them, Gavar Abba Ono. He says, I'm not haughty. I'm a great person. Amrulei, Mariadinon, how do we know that you're so great? Amrulu, he said to them, I'atun bu'uminoi milsa. Well, either you ask me your best question, or I'll ask you, I don't know, a question. Amuleh, they said to him, Be'i'at, ask us. Amuleh says to them, Haiman de cuts kufra, a fellow who cuts down, Rashi says, kufra b'tamam kiboser ba'novim. So I guess a half ripe date. My mishalim, how much does he pay? Amuleh, they said to him, Mishalim to make kufa. Well, they pay the value of a half-ripe date. Amuleh says to them, havu tamri, but they're ultimately going to be a fully ripe date, and you're messing it up. Amuleh, they said to him, okay, fine, Mishalim to make tamri. So pay the value of a fully ripe date. Amuleh v'had lav tamri shakal mine, but he didn't take a fully ripe date. He took a half-ripe date. Amruli, they said to him, Ema lon at. Okay, fine, tell us. Amruli says to them, B'shishim. Well, you pay relative to 60 times. Amruli, they said to him, Man Omar Kavasich. Okay, who else says, how do we know that you're right? Amruli says to them, Hashmil Chai, Uveizdino Kayim. Says, look, you can always go to Shmuel. Shmuel's in Nardo. Go to his Bezdin. Shadru Kami to Shmuel. They sent before Shmuel Amrulu, and Shmuel said to them, Shapir Kamruluchu, B'shishim, V'shavku. Yeah, he's taka right. That the halacha would be that you evaluate it relative to 60, and they then left Eliezer Zeira alone. Reb Shimon Omer Achle Perez Gemurim Chule. Reb Shimon says that if he ate fully ripe fruits, so then you pay face value. There's no shishim or anything. You just pay face value if it's fully ripe. My timer. How come? That when we say bir b'stei acher, which is what we said at the end of the daf yesterday, that we evaluate relative to the field. That's so long as it still needs the field. Hane, but fully ripe fruits, given the lo tzricha l'soda, since they don't need the field. Be'enayu boi shalume. So So therefore we just evaluate them at face value. Omer Rav Huna par Chia, Omer Birmia par Abba. Don Rav Meir ufasa kilchsa ki Rav Shimon. Rav at one point, I don't really. This seems kind of random to me, but Rav at one point judged a case in favor, judged a case like Rav Meir, but told his students that the halacha is like Rav Shimon. Don Rav Meir, that he judged a case like Rav Meir. The Tanya is within the brayso kosav larishin velo chas malo. So if you have a husband that has, I guess a field, two fields. Wait, one second. Wait, let me. No, I don't want to look it up. I think. Yeah, I think that there's like a fella's husband has a field that would be used to pay her ksuba in the event that it needs to be paid. So now he was going to sell it to somebody else. Kosav l'rishon, he wrote a document to sell it to somebody else. V'lo chasmalo, but she didn't agree. L'sheni v'chasmalo, but then he wrote the document to a second person, and then she signed that she agreed. It's fine. Of the ksubasa, then she lost her ksuba. There won't be any way to pay her ksuba. Tivrei Reb Meir, that is Reb Meir's opinion. Reb Yehuda Omer says, Reb Yehuda yicholi shetomer nachasuach asisi levaili atem ma lochem. Fine, leave me alone. Right? Meaning, the excuse would be, look, I didn't really want to give away the field that would be used to pay my ksuba. That's crazy. The only reason why I paid it is because I felt pressured. I felt like I should, my husband wants me to do it, so I did it, but I didn't really mean to. So Reb Meir says that she loses her ksuba, because if that was the case, then why didn't she do it to the first guy who was going to buy it? Right there, she had no problem holding off. And the second guy, she signed on. But if really she felt pressured, then she would have felt pressured to the first guy also. Whereas Reb Yehuda says it would be a valid excuse, and she could say, look, I only did it to make my husband happy, and I guess she would still be able to get paid from the field. But Rav, I guess, passed in the halacha like Reb Meir, that she would lose her ksuba. But he passed in a halacha like Reb Shimon, like our Mishnah, Reb Shimon Omer Ochel Peres Gemurin, Mishalim is Peres Gemurin, that if the animal ate ripe fruits, so then you pay the value of the ripe fruits. Im saw, im sosaim. If it's a saw, then a saw. If it's two saws, then two saws. Hamagdish b'soch stei chavero, a fellow who makes a pile in his friend's field, shelo birshus, without permission. V'chaloson b'emto shel ba'al hasad, and then the owner of the field, his animal, ate the pile. Potter. So the owner of the field is potter, because the piler didn't have any permission to pile. Ve'im huzgaboin ba'al hagodish chayv, and if the animal, if the owner of the field's animal gets damaged with them, so then the piler is chayiv. Ve'im higdish bershus, but if the piler had permission, balasod chayiv, so then the owner of the field would be responsible. Lematanan to lo kirebi. Let's say that this is unlike Rebbe, because if you remember, the kirebi ha'omer achikabel olav bal abayis lishmor. Rebbe says that he's going to be potter until that a bal abayis who says, sure, you can leave stuff in my chotzer. He's only going to be chayiv if he explicitly accepts upon himself a responsibility. But short of that, he will be potter. And here we're saying that if the Bala Soda gave him permission to pile his stuff, so then the Bala Soda is chayiv, even though he didn't explicitly accept upon himself to take responsibility. Amar Papa says, Papa acho beneter Beidaria skinon the omele ayil ukdosh ayil va'anter lahu. Well, here it's talking about there was some kind of a granary, and all the people in the area, they would all store their stuff in the granary, and there was somebody whose job it was to guard the granary. So basically, what's happening is over here is that if this person who's in charge of guarding the granary says, yeah, sure, you can pile your stuff in here. So what he's saying is, sure, pile your stuff in here, and I'll take care of it just like I'll take care of everything else here. And that is why at that point the balasode would be chayiv, because in that context, is taking care of stuff. So this was basically like a daf and a half, but it really didn't take very long. We moved pretty quickly. Kind of a technical daf, but it moved, which was nice. Talking about how to evaluate the damages that were done. Basically, if an animal eats it, it is evaluated on some kind of a formula of 60. There was a machlokas, a base of the 60 times what was eaten, whatever it is. Then there was by a person, there was a machlokas between Rish Lakish and Rav Nachman, let's say, about is it at face value or is it also the Shishim formula? Have a nice day. Bye.